Welcome back, folks. My name is LastKnownMeal, and today we're going to be talking about CDPR Group Q3 2021 earnings. So basically, this is the time when CDPR comes out and they talk with their investors. By this, they obviously have to share how much money they have spent on things, how much money they have earned, and basically reveal their plans for 2022. So in this video, I'm going to tell you everything CD Projekt has planned for 2022, going from The Witcher, Cyberpunk, and everything else. Keep one thing in mind. Since this came out, there's already been some people asking me if some things are going to happen, like multiplayer, etc., which I'm going to go and talk to, and there's already some unrealistic expectations and unrealistic news and speculation which I want to get out of immediately, because this is the problem which was happening before release of Cyberpunk 2077, after release with those leaks saying they're going to bring back everything people wanted by the end of 2021, which I said is not going to happen, and it didn't. So obviously I have a much more realistic approach here, and if some people don't like it, then that's your problem. But I want to keep things realistic and basically tell you what they have said without trying to spin into something which they haven't. So let's get into it. First things first, when it comes to the next gen versions of Cyberpunk 2077 and The Witcher, so far, the Cyberpunk 2077 is set to release in the first quarter of 2022. So that means in the first 3 months of 2022, we should be getting Cyberpunk 2077 Next Gen Edition, which is going to be free if you already have the PlayStation 4 or Xbox One version. So if you have that, if you bought the PlayStation 4 version for $10, like it was on Target, congratulations, now you have a free Next Gen Edition. But that's so far. I'm not excluding the fact of a possibility of them delaying this again, but so far they said this is on track. When it comes to The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt Complete Edition, which is the next gen version of The Witcher 3, which is going to be a free upgrade. This is not a remaster, this is not a remake, this is an upgrade. Or well, you can kinda consider it a remaster, but not to the point where people fully expect it to be a total remake of the game. So just don't be surprised if you don't get a lot of things in the next gen upgrade, but at the same time, if you own any version of The Witcher, you will be getting this for free. They will also add the all game expansions and basically the visual upgrades, like from that perspective, and also extra items like the sword and the armor, which were inspired by Netflix The Witcher series, for example. So they're doing this cross promotion thing, and this is set to release in the second quarter of 2022. So my guess, sometimes in August, but at the same time I could be wrong about this and things might be delayed or might be sooner than I think. But so far, Cyberpunk Q1, The Witcher Q2, unless it's delayed. Next thing, we're going to break down the projects and everything that CDPR has planned for the future, including basically the gradual shift from updating Cyberpunk 2077 to making new projects. So in this breakdown, we can see that the support for Cyberpunk 2077, the next gen version, has been the highest since when the game releases, which makes sense because they had to patch the initial problems. Obviously this thing is going to shrink. It doesn't mean that there is like 2 people working on it. Now this is still, when you think about it, there is currently like 660 people working directly in the studio as developers, and when basically this shrinks a little bit, it still means that you have about 250 people, maybe even more, working on this so far. So it's not a small number of people, but obviously you can see the support for Cyberpunk 2077 has shrunk a lot in the terms of developers, because obviously some are going to be moving to different things because they cannot give you more when it comes to this. When it comes to updates, other people will be handling that. So we have Gwent related projects. This is obviously pretty much the same as for every year. So yeah, it's actually been increasing a little bit. When it comes to Spoko, The Witcher Monster Slayer, which is the mobile game of The Witcher, the augmented reality one, this has been increased a little bit, but obviously like this is just a small thing in their portfolio, which obviously doesn't get huge attention, but at the same time, like it's gonna be updated and supported. I actually saw an update about it just recently. When it comes to CP expansion, obviously you can see the number of developers that went from the base Cyberpunk 2077 development is now actually expanding into the CP expansion. So they have been saying that in 2022 you're gonna be getting DLCs, so free DLCs like it was here, basically a new car, a different look for Johnny, etc, etc. Don't expect when it comes to these DLCs to be anything huge. If you are talking about adding things or missing features, that's not a part of a DLC. That's either going to be released in an update or it's not going to be released at all. Those are the two possibilities. When it comes to DLCs, they're just going to be small pieces of content. And there is a huge chance that all of those pieces of content are already been signed off. So basically, those things we're gonna be getting, and they have been decided on even before the game came out. When it comes to expansions though, I could be expecting the first expansion for Cyberpunk 2077 at the end of 2022. I really cannot expect this expansion to come out sooner, especially if they're gonna be doing a bigger expansion. If you remember from The Witcher 3, there was the smaller expansion, which was the Hearts of Stone, which then became a bigger expansion later on in the Blood and Wine. So I'm guessing they're gonna be taking a similar approach with Cyberpunk, where you're gonna be having a smaller expansion as a first one and then having a bigger one later on, because obviously they need more time to work on it. But at the same time, it could be the end of 2022, and I'm being very optimistic here, meaning that if things go well and no problems arise. And we also have the other projects here, which has been obviously expanding a little bit. As you finish one project, you're gonna be moving to another. We do know that this is not speculation, that after Cyberpunk, they want to do another Witcher game. We don't know what this new Witcher game is going to be. All we know is that the adventures of Geralt of Rivia in this form that we had today, from Witcher 1 to Witcher 3, are done. They're done with Geralt of Rivia. So whatever the new Witcher we get, it's gonna have a different character, it's gonna have a different thing. That can be a double-edged sword, so obviously they need a lot more time to work on that. So I wouldn't be expecting the next Witcher game for a good amount of time. If you've been waiting for Cyberpunk all this time, now imagine how much more time they'll need to make The Witcher. So these things are not coming out anytime soon. They want to fill that time with, you know, Cyberpunk expansions. So when it comes to the next Witcher game, that's in development, I'm sure of it, and it's gonna be going out not anytime soon. Next up, there is one thing which people have been asking me about and the people have been talking to me about, and that is the online feature of Cyberpunk 2077. What's going on with that? Some people have been saying that they have been working on it for the past 2 years. Working on something for the past 2 years doesn't mean you're close to release. It doesn't mean you're close to actually giving anything substantial for it. Before Cyberpunk 2077 came out, they brought in Gabriel Amantangelo, which was going to focus directly on online. We don't know how is that thing going and how is it going to overall help them. I mean, Amantangelo is a good developer and who actually has experience in online, but he's not that X factor who's going to make something good or bad. We don't know that. So they have said multiple times that the online version of Cyberpunk is coming out after they're done with expansions. So people have been saying that we might expect it soon. I will say no. I'm sorry that probably some of you don't want to hear this, but we're not going to have multiplayer anytime soon. First, the expansions have to come out. First, all of these issues with Cyberpunk and basically making it playable on last gen and making it, you know, tightening everything up to work as it should, is gonna take some time. So I wouldn't really expect to also have online on top of it until these things are solved. So even though they might be working on that for 2 years, it doesn't mean it's coming out in the next 2 years. It doesn't mean that, because whenever CDPR sets a release date, you can count 80% that's going to be delayed. It's been happening for ages now, and I don't know, like, people still haven't learned for some reason. I don't know. And if anyone tells you out there that they know what Cyberpunk Online is going to be, they're lying. They don't know. No one knows. If there was anything about Cyberpunk Online and we have some news about it, I would know. We don't. We don't know what's going to be. We don't. And I know that some people have been saying like they're making a sequel to Cyberpunk. They're not. I'm sorry. They're not making a sequel to Cyberpunk. I mean, they will be making a sequel to Cyberpunk, I'm sure of that, but not anytime soon. And before that, you're gonna have The Witcher. But that's not all, because we do have the Molasses Flood, a studio which CD Projekt actually acquired. They're gonna be working on their brand new game set in the IP of either Cyberpunk or The Witcher. So they're not making new Cyberpunk game or the new Witcher game. They're gonna be making their own thing. Because before they acquired, they said they want freedom in that sense. They don't want to support other development teams. They actually want to make their own thing. So they will be making their own thing. So this is a separate project and a separate game from everything else that we have talked about before. So this is something I'm definitely looking forward to, because the Molasses Flood is a very good studio. Now hopefully under CD Projekt they actually do better, but we'll see how this is going to happening. But especially from the technical standpoint, the Molasses Flood is a really good studio. And on top of that, they also have obviously Vancouver, which is supporting their studios. So to sum everything up, 2022, a couple of DLCs for Cyberpunk 2077, Next Gen Edition, which is patch 1.5, which is coming out in the first quarter of 2022, we're not getting any more updates. The Witcher also getting Next Gen upgrade. The first expansion for Cyberpunk 2077, and this is my personal opinion, might be coming at the end of 2022 if things go well and the game is, or well, the expansion is not delayed, but I think it might be delayed. When it comes to the Molasses Flood, this is probably not coming out this year because they probably just started working on this. When it comes to online and multiplayer for Cyberpunk 2077, don't expect it in 2021. It's simple as that. Don't get your expectations to the point where you will be disappointed, because it says at the end of this presentation, the presentation outlines the activity of CD Projekt and CD Projekt Group. It is purely informative in scope and should not be regarded as offering investment advice. Basically, they're not committing to anything here. This is just what they think will happen. This is quite normal to have. So yeah, this is basically when it comes to the future of CD Projekt in 2022. So thank you everyone so much for watching. I just wanted to get things out of the way, and as they are right now, don't fall for disinformation, especially when it comes to adding missing features. We just got this insane news that, you know, they're gonna be, we don't know that, okay? We don't know what they're gonna be adding, and if they're gonna be adding that. There is always this possibility of if. Maybe not, we'll see. As always, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like it. If you dislike it, well, YouTube removed that, so what can you do? And also don't forget to tell me down below what do you think about all of this, and also don't forget to check us out on Twitter and Discord if you want to join our discussion there. And also huge thanks to my current Patreon supporters. This is LKM signing out, and stay classy everyone. Bye bye.